As I mentioned in my video on the original, this is one of two sequels to 11 Days, 11 Nights. The other one has the alternative title of Top Model. This one's other name is Web of Desire, but both were called 11 Days, 11 Nights Part 2. Same production company, same director, so here we go. It begins with this totally unnecessary scene of Sarah dancing to this awful song that seems to play throughout the entire film in some form or another. She's in a wedding dress before she and the groom start banging. Somehow, we immediately switch to Sarah leaving a courthouse being questioned by reporters about her next book, and we soon find out what this book is going to be about. Sarah and her publisher are out on a run, where they start discussing the new book idea. It turns out that a rich old man called Lionel Durrington, everyone who's rich in the US has to have a last name ending with Ington, of course. Sarah has previously banged Lionel, so he's named her in his will. So Sarah must travel to New Orleans to meet the lawyer of the oldest family in Louisiana. So 5 minutes of the film is eaten up by Sarah's travel via seaplane and limo to the Durrington family estate. Here we meet the lawyer and the Durrington family. Now I know we don't expect Oscar-worthy performances in films like this, but here we are treated to some absolutely horrendous acting. It's as if they haven't even made any effort, like they haven't even practiced. It turns out Sarah has been made executrix of the will.
Mrs. Brune has been named executrix of the will.
Ooh, executrix. That's a big word. Let's make sure we put that in the script. And she has 11 days to choose which member of the Durrington family is the most worthy heir to the family fortune. There's George Durrington, Lionel's younger brother.
Well, it's obvious that my brother Lionel was not of sound mind. I think we can all agree on that.
Lionel's son, Alfred. My father must have been out of his mind to do such a thing. It's absurd. Alfred's wife, Dana. Under these conditions, the letter is invalid. Sonny.
I don't give a damn about Sarah, or the will, or this damn family.
Sonny's wife, Joanna.
And violating the privacy of our family.
And Bob.
Don't get too overheated. It's obvious this letter could not have been written by a man of sound mind.
To sum up, they're all furious. Alfred, however, wastes no time and chooses to use his sex appeal to win Sarah over. Dana is not happy, so gets hammered and bangs Alfred's Uncle George, while nephew Sonny watches them by way of hidden camera. And yes, that's a very liberal interpretation of the word hidden. So Alfred has managed to get Sarah to lunch, where he explains that his marriage to Dana isn't working out. We don't get along anymore. It's just one long argument. She won't even let me touch her. And that's why he has an agreement with the restaurant that means he can go upstairs and have sex with hookers. Sarah seems to want in on this arrangement, so she goes upstairs and gets in the bath. Alfred comes in next and they bang. I mean, how could she resist? Later on, while Sarah is washing the Alfred off her, she notices one of Sonny's incredibly discreet hidden cameras and puts on a bit of a shower performance for him. When she gets out, Sonny's gold-digging wife Joanna comes into Sarah's room to tell her that A, Sonny is impotent, B, he has a camera network set up around the house, and C, because of these two things, she should get all the money.
Joanna just left my room. She says Sonny is impotent.
That's nice, Sarah. What an absolute bitch. Sarah then overhears George on the phone discussing his debts. He's also clearly trying to get some information on Sarah that he can use to get her on side. Then Bob asks Sarah to go horseback riding, but Sarah explains that Sonny has offered to give her a ride into town. Here, Sonny and Sarah seem to spend an eternity walking around streets in silence until she manages to convince him to go to a strip club in broad daylight, where people can't even seem to clap convincingly. While watching the dancers, Sonny puts on his best I'm impotent face, while Sarah decides to take to the stage to wind him up even further. This scene goes on for far too long. Luckily, Sonny decides he's had enough and leaves. Later that night, Sarah can't sleep, and she overhears George and Dana having sex. So she, of course, peers through the door, and then hears them discussing how important it is that George gets all the money. Sarah goes downstairs to get some bread and milk. Bob enters the kitchen and starts talking about horses again. Now, if anyone is looking for a horse-related chat-up line, you can't do much worse than this.
Do you know that when the horses are in season, the mare is already full of desire as she enters the paddock?
What?
And the sight of her stallion gets her so excited. You know, it really doesn't take much.
What? No.
Just the smell of each other, and he gets an erection.
What?
And it's worked. Unbelievable. Next day, Sarah comes into her room and finds a tape that Dana has left for her to listen to. The tape explains how her husband Alfred is actually responsible for Sonny being impotent, and we're treated to this flashback. Bear in mind this is supposed to be years ago when Sonny was still a teenager. You'll notice that nobody seems to have aged at all since. So the flashback has Sonny's girlfriend coming over to the house because Sonny has promised to help her with her homework. Alfred's like, don't worry, I'll do the homework.
Yes, easy.
"Well done, Alfred. It's teenagers' homework and you're about 70. Then Alfred offers her a drink. But it's not just a drink, is it? Nope. Alfred slips something into it that seems to make her want to dance to this awful music he puts on. Funnily enough, it's the same song that played in the strip club years later. Then on goes the TV, which has a camera and tripod next to it for some reason. Alfred seizes opportunity and starts doing this weird grabbing thing. She comes round, starts screaming, "No!" But Alfred's not having any of it. "No, come on, love, just let it happen." It's at this point that a teenage Sonny walks in and is immediately made impotent forever. The next day, we see Horseman Bob in bed with Joanna, Sonny's wife. They're talking about having Sonny put into a mental institution due to his impotence.
Oh, I see.
They also decide that Dana is the main threat to them, so they decide to target her. Cut to Sarah, who's meeting George at the casino. They make some bet that's clearly going to result in them banging. The game of blackjack goes on far too long before the inevitable happens. Next day, when the family is out, Sarah goes into Sonny's room and finds a tape of her having sex with his uncle, which is somehow recorded over the traumatic flashback that we saw earlier. How is there any way this tape exists? It's not even filmed from the same angle that Alfred's camera and tripod was set to. It's ridiculous. He also has tapes of Bob and Joanna discussing getting him sectioned for his impotence. After seeing all these tapes, Sarah calls her publisher, who tells her that the Durrington family lawyers have made sure that she can't use any of this in her book. She's not happy about this and decides to take revenge. Cut to Sonny opening a letter claiming to be from his teenage girlfriend who his dad roofied, saying, "Meet me at 9 p.m. in the usual place." So he goes to the usual place. The girl walks in, and while it's too dark to see her face, you can see that she's wearing the exact same outfit she wore during that hideous ordeal with Alfred all those years ago. Anyway, that's good enough for Sonny, so no need whatsoever to turn the lights on. So they bang, turns out to be Sarah, and Sonny is cured. Next morning, Sonny interrupts the family meeting, grabs his wife Joanna, and shows her just exactly how cured he is. So she and Bob can cancel the men in white coats. We're now at the lawyers, and Sarah's decided that all the money will go to charity unless something happens. We'll find out in a few seconds. Sonny is telling the others outside that his new working penis qualifies him to be the president of the family business. "We're all happy for you, Sonny, but that's not a wise idea. You wouldn't know where to start."
Why do you?
And they all agree. Later on in the boardroom, Sarah tells them that they can all have an even share of the money as long as they agree to let her use everything she's found out in the last few days in her book. They go from outright refusal to signing the papers within seconds. So of the $500 million, the family receives $250 million, with the other $250 million going to Mr. Archibald Conway.
Archibald Conway.
With all this business behind her, Sarah decides to visit Lionel Durrington's grave. And then Lionel turns up. Absolute garbage. Lionel explains who Archibald Conway is.
Poor old guy who I wanted to give a decent burial in exchange for his precious identity.
This makes zero sense. That's not a decent burial. He's buried under a stone with someone else's name on it. Surely that's the furthest thing imaginable from a decent burial. Anyway, turns out Lionel just wanted to leave his life of business behind and have some fun at the expense of his relatives.
Good luck, Archibald Conway.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and check out this other video. Thank you.